Welcome to the Hodja on Everything. The Space. Chapter 9, Once in a Blue Moon. In the previous episode, we traveled all the way to the possible end of the universe. We watched stars fade, galaxies drift apart, and explored several ways the cosmos might eventually reach its final chapter. Today, however, we return to something much closer to home. Only about 384,400 kilometers away, our oldest celestial neighbor has been quietly accompanying Earth for billions of years. We have written poems about it, blamed it for werewolves, used it to measure time, and eventually decided to visit it. Few objects in the sky have influenced human civilization quite as profoundly as the moon. Oddly enough, the moon probably began its existence in rather dramatic fashion. Around 4.5 billion years ago, when the solar system was still young, a Mars-sized object, known to scientists as Theia, is thought to have collided with the early Earth. The impact was unimaginably violent. Vast quantities of molten rock were blasted into orbit, eventually gathering together to form the moon we know today. Our nearest neighbor, it seems, was born of what was perhaps the largest traffic accident in the solar system. Remarkably, the collision may also have made Earth a much friendlier place to live. The moon's gravity helps stabilize our planet's axial tilt, preventing it from wobbling too dramatically over millions of years. Without the moon, Earth's climate might have changed far more unpredictably, making the long-term development of complex life considerably more difficult. It is rather comforting to think that one catastrophic collision may ultimately have helped create the conditions that allowed us to sit here discussing it billions of years later. The moon also performs another remarkable service almost every single day. Its gravity pulls on Earth's oceans, creating the tides. As our planet rotates, coastlines move through these bulges of water, producing the familiar rhythm of high and low tides that has shaped marine ecosystems, coastal communities, and human history for thousands of years. The moon has been quietly moving Earth's oceans for billions of years without sending us a single invoice. The relationship is not entirely one-sided, however. Earth's gravity also affects the moon. Over millions of years, our planet slowed the moon's rotation until it became tidally locked. As a result, the moon rotates exactly once during each orbit around Earth, which is why we always see the same hemisphere facing us. It is perhaps the longest selfie pose in the solar system. This often leads to one of astronomy's most common misunderstandings. People frequently talk about the dark side of the moon. In reality, there is no permanently dark side. Every part of the moon receives sunlight over the course of its month. One side spends its entire career avoiding photographers. For something that appears so familiar, the moon continues to shape our world in surprisingly subtle ways. It steadies our planet, moves our oceans, and has silently watched every civilization rise beneath its light. Long before it became an object of scientific study, however, it was already becoming something else entirely, one of humanity's greatest storytellers. For thousands of years, the moon was far more than a distant rock in the sky. It was humanity's calendar, compass, storyteller, and occasionally its favorite suspect. Long before mechanical clocks existed, people noticed that the moon changed its appearance with remarkable regularity. Roughly every 29.5 days, it completed a full cycle of phases, making it one of the earliest natural calendars ever available. Many of today's calendars, including the Islamic and Hebrew calendars, still follow the moon's rhythm, while countless festivals around the world continue to depend on its changing phases. The moon, it seems, has always been remarkably punctual. Its changing appearance also inspired myths across almost every civilization. The Greeks imagined Selene driving her silver chariot across the night sky. The Chinese celebrated Chang'e, the moon goddess. In Japan, many people see a rabbit on the moon rather than the man in the moon, familiar to much of Europe. Humanity has looked at exactly the same surface for thousands of years and somehow managed to see completely different stories. Astronomy tells us what the moon is. Culture tells us what we imagined it to be. Of course, some of those stories became rather more imaginative than others. Somewhere along the way, humanity looked at a perfectly innocent natural satellite and concluded that it was probably responsible for turning people into wolves. The moon has perhaps the worst legal representation in mythology. It has been blamed for werewolves, madness, strange behavior, and poor sleep, despite presenting remarkably little evidence in its own defense. The moon has also been accused of producing all sorts of dramatic celestial events. Fortunately, science usually offers rather calmer explanations. Take a solar eclipse, for example. It occurs when the moon passes directly between Earth and the sun, briefly blocking our view of the solar disk. A lunar eclipse happens when Earth moves between the sun and the moon, causing our planet's shadow to fall across the lunar surface. During some lunar eclipses, the moon appears deep red, giving rise to the dramatic expression blood moon. Nothing actually catches fire. Earth's atmosphere bends and filters sunlight, allowing mostly red wavelengths to reach the moon. Apparently, even sunlight enjoys taking the scenic route. Then there is the supermoon, a favorite headline whenever the moon happens to be slightly closer to Earth than usual. It does appear a little larger and brighter, but only by a modest amount. The moon has not suddenly become more ambitious. The marketing department deserves most of the credit. The blue moon may be even more misleading. Despite its name, the moon does not usually turn blue at all. The modern definition refers to the second full moon occurring within a single calendar month. Astronomy, every now and then, suffers from remarkably unfortunate branding. Whether we admired it, feared it, or misunderstood it, the moon remained our constant companion. Eventually, curiosity began to replace mythology. After spending thousands of years writing stories about the moon, humanity eventually decided that perhaps it was time to stop imagining and start traveling. On July 20th, 1969, during the Apollo 11 mission, Neil Armstrong became the first human to step onto the lunar surface, followed shortly afterwards by Buzz Aldrin. For the first time in history, another world carried human footprints. It remains one of those extraordinary moments when nearly the entire planet paused to watch the same event. Politics, languages, and borders briefly became less important than a simple sentence spoken from nearly 400,000 kilometers away. One small step, as it turned out, became a remarkably large proof of concept. The Apollo program landed 12 astronauts on the moon between 1969 and 1972. They collected rocks, deployed scientific instruments, and fundamentally changed our understanding of our nearest neighbor. Yet after Apollo 17, humanity stopped returning. For more than 50 years, no human being has walked on the moon. Oddly enough, we visited our nearest neighbor, said, "Thank you very much," and then stayed away for half a century. That long pause is finally coming to an end. Through NASA's Artemis program, together with many international partners, humanity is preparing to return to the moon. This time, the goal is not simply to visit, plant a flag, and come home. The ambition is far greater, to build a lasting presence. Future missions aim to establish lunar bases, construct the Gateway space station in lunar orbit, and learn how to live and work beyond Earth for extended periods. The moon is no longer the destination. It is becoming the departure lounge. There are practical reasons for this. The moon's weaker gravity makes launching spacecraft far easier than lifting them directly from Earth. Water ice discovered near its poles could one day provide drinking water, breathable oxygen, and even rocket fuel. In many ways, the moon may become humanity's training ground for much longer journeys into the solar system. And those journeys are already tempting astronomers and planetary scientists with even more intriguing destinations. Europa, one of Jupiter's largest moons, hides a vast global ocean beneath its frozen surface. Titan, Saturn's largest moon, possesses rivers, lakes, and rain, not of water, but of liquid methane and ethane beneath a thick orange atmosphere. Neither world resembles Earth, yet both may teach us entirely new ways in which planets and moons can evolve. Some scientists even wonder whether hidden oceans such as Europa's could provide environments suitable for simple forms of life. It is remarkable how often astronomy rewards curiosity. We traveled to the moon expecting to learn about one world. Instead, it encouraged us to begin thinking about hundreds of others. Perhaps that is the moon's greatest gift. It transformed astronomy from something we merely observed into somewhere we could actually go. Every deep space mission, every Mars rover, and every future journey beyond our planet owes something to those first cautious steps across the lunar dust. In the next and final episode of this season, after traveling from the birth of the universe to our nearest celestial neighbor, we will finally return home. We will look at Earth itself, not as a collection of countries, oceans, or continents, but as a tiny world drifting through an unimaginably vast cosmos. We will explore its changing continents, its distant future, and revisit one of the most powerful ideas ever expressed about our place in the universe, Carl Sagan's pale blue dot. Sometimes the greatest journey through space is the one that teaches us to see home for the very first time. This concludes Chapter 9 of The Space, Once in a Blue Moon. Thanks for listening. See you in the next episode.